Hey guys, gals, and MBs, we're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to use the ASM Hydrasynth. We're going to make a pad. I say something different because I said I was going to use some analog synths in my upcoming video, but I felt like using the Hydrasynth. We're going to make a cyberpunk inspired pad, and not the awful game. I'm talking just cyberpunk as the genre, so more of a like Blade Runner and things like that. And one of the big things that we're going to have to use in it is a really nice, a really long, luscious reverb. And the problem with the Hydrasynth, and I bring this up on a lot of synths, and I just don't like the reverb on most synths. The two that are fantastic synths with reverb, that is actually fantastic, I should say, are the Novation Peak and the Wavestate or Wavestate Mark II. And generally those I'll demo a patch where I don't use external reverb. In this case, we're going to use the blackhole. The reason I want to use the blackhole in here, this is one of the cheapest reverb pedals you can get on the market, especially used. And if you don't have access to one of these, you can get the plugin if you're like using a DAW with your synth, for instance, or something. You can get the plugin generally for $50, but it can go down all the way down to $20 during like Black Friday and things like that. Highly recommend the blackhole just in any general context for ambient reverb. It's still one of my favorites. The only pedal that really is better in my opinion is the Strymon, the Cloud Burst, or the new Big Sky MX. All right, so all that said, let's do a comparison of the reverb before we get making the patch. So we're going to use an init patch, which I have here. And by default, the filter we have here is the low pass ladder. We're going to bring down the cutoff a little so it's not so harsh. And yeah, we're going to demo why I don't like the reverb on this synth in particular. This is one of the more egregious ones. So there's no easy way to bypass it or anything, so we just have to do 50, like a mix here, and then we can mix it in. We'll do 50-50, so let's hold down shift so I can slow it down here. And we'll go down to 50. And by default, in an init patch, we get 1.4 seconds on time. Tone is at -50, and high dampening. So we get the high frequencies get dampened out at pretty high rate. And you'll hear why. It's just not good. And we'll turn the pre-delay all the way down just for this because we're going to use almost no pre-delay whatsoever on the blackhole either, because we want the reverb to kick in right away. We want it just to be reverb all over. So, all right, yeah. So that is pretty bad, and we don't even have much time on it. The problem is you can go on pretty high times on this, right? And you can do long reverb tails, but they're very bad sounding. They're very metallic, they're very comb filtery, they're just not nice. So you can't get a long reverb on this without it sounding harsh and awful. So we have a pretty nice sounding saw in my opinion. It's not really that harsh or awful, but with this it does. So let's go into like, I don't know, let's even try 5 seconds for instance. Okay, listen to that reverb tail. I'm just gonna press a note. It's not like the worst ever, but it's pretty egregious in my opinion. Yeah, it's nowhere near what the Novation Peak or the Wavestate can do. And it's not going to work for what we want to do. And especially on long reverb times, like let's try 24 seconds. There's no modulation. It's just like a pingy sound. It's just very metallic-y. It's just not nice. And you would think, hey, maybe the different algorithms, or we could use the dampening. Let's just hear it with no dampening and like no tone control. So bringing the tone down makes it less bright. But yeah, here. So we have to dampen the hell out of it to make it sound even passable, in my opinion. And it doesn't filter out nicely is the problem when it decays. So you're thinking to yourself, well, why don't you use one of the other algorithms? Well, the Hall is actually the best algorithm in there. Let's go to the cloud, because most people will go, oh, well, use the cloud because that sounds like something that Strymon put out. No, it's not. It's not even a copy of the cloud algorithm from Strymon. It's just a terrible algorithm in general. Here, it's a little more dampened, but if we turn off dampening, we turn up the tone. God, that's just bad. So let's make it like at least somewhat usable. Still, there's no modulation on the tails. It doesn't filter as it decays. Not nice at all. Even with some delay, let's add a little bit of pre-delay. Yeah, not nice at all. So let's like listen to the plate. Again, no dampening, flat tone. Even if we dampen it and try to make it sound a little less shrill, it's better, but it's not good. But yeah, like it's just, they're not good algorithms. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Before, like a lot of people, when I've made patches in the past, said, why don't you use the internal reverb and things like that? That's why I don't like using it on it, especially on the Hydrasynth. Again, the peak and the wave state are different altogether, especially the peak. That reverb is lovely. So now let's listen to the black hole for the settings we're going to use on here. We have a really high size. We have the high dampened down just a little bit. No low dampening. We're just even on that. That's the gravity setting. It's about there. Some feedback there. On the secondary settings, we have no delay time whatsoever. The Q's turned all the way down, or the resonance by here. Let's listen to this now. Listen to how that just decays down. And now if we have like a smooth envelope here going into it, a little decay. And just to be fair, let's listen to it again with here. Let's go to the best setting that I think. Right around there is nice. We'll turn it up to about there. That's fine. So yeah. Yeah, those reverb tails are not nice. Let's listen to the black hole one more time before we get started. I know we're already quite a few minutes into this. I'll put timestamps down below, obviously, so you can skip to the actual patch making. We have a little bit of modulation going on here. Yeah, so that's what it sounds like with a good reverb algorithm. So yeah, that's what we're going to use. That's why I wanted to bring it up in the beginning here. I wanted you to listen to what a bad reverb algorithm, or what I think a bad reverb algorithm sounds like, versus what I think a very good reverb algorithm sounds like. And I'm using one of the most accessible pedals that you can get that sounds good, in my opinion. Especially used, these go pretty cheap. And like I said, you can do it in a DAW or as like a plugin for your DAW. A lot of people are going to use a DAW with a hardware synth. So do what you will with the reverb in here, but we're not going to be using it. So all that said, let's go ahead and make the patch. So I'm going to go into my init patch here. You can press the init button twice, or in my case, I just have an init patch already just made because I like to have it with a color scheme that I already like, so without having to set it. Just personal preference. But yeah, so this is basically just your init patch, and we're going to start with oscillator 1, and we're going to make it wave scanning. So what we want to do here is select wave scan. We want to edit the list. We want to hold shift so we load an entire set of wavetables. We're going to start on horizon 1. We're going to use the horizon wavetable. It's a really nice one. And we're going to go back to oscillator here. We're going to hold LFO 1. We're going to press wave scan here, which attaches it to the wave scan LFO, or the LFO gets attached to the wave scan. And I should state that you can do this on all the Hydrasynths. Your menu diving will be different on the Explorer versus like the normal or the deluxe. Well, the deluxe will be the same, or the desktop should be very similar to this. And yeah, so luckily the nice thing about all the Hydrasynth line and why I love making content about it is they're all the same for the actual sound generation engine. So yeah, they're all kind of compatible. You just have to find the things in different places. All right, so that said, we're going to use wave scanning. We're going to turn the depth up a little bit. A little less. Once we get the oscillator set, that's when we're going to set the envelopes. It's going to be a little different than I normally like to use it. Usually I like to shape the envelope first for the filter and for the amplifier, but in this case we're actually going to set the oscillators and the mutants first. A little different, but it'll work. So yeah, go back to our oscillator. Actually, we're going to go to LFO 1. Since LFO 1 is attached to that, we're going to slow it down now. Then we're going to go into mutant 1 here, and we're going to set our first mutant to wave stack. We're going to turn the dry, wet up to around 30. Maybe a little more. All right. The filter, that's going to sound really cool. We're going to go to mutant number 2, and then we're going to change this to oscillator sync. We're going to make sure that it's syncing from oscillator 1, so it's syncing back on itself, which is kind of a cool feature. We're going to turn the wet to dry up and turn it to around 50, and then we're going to attach an LFO to the depth, but let's hear what it actually sounds like. We're going to find a nice value to start it out at. 35 is nice. We're going to attach LFO 2 to this, so hold LFO 2 up, go back to the mutant. I pressed it. But yeah, so back to the mutant, hold LFO 2, and then press that. Now it's assigned. We're going to turn the depth up. Maybe a little less depth. That's nice. Go to LFO 2. We're going to slow it way down. Okay, back to the mutant. We need to turn down the wet dry a little. We want it to be nice and buzzy like this because we're going to use a lot of filtering. We're going to use some drive. It's going to be really harsh sounding, which our black hole over here is going to smooth out. But yeah, we want it to be as harmonically rich as possible in that case. And we're going to do some pretty cool things to bring in some textures as time goes on. So now let's go. We got our first oscillator group set up with some LFO and some nice movement going. So let's go to oscillator 2. We're also going to use wave scan. We're going to use the exact same wavetable, but we're going to do it a little differently. So we're going to go back to horizon. So horizon 1 through 8. We're going to go into here. Now we're in the bass setting to this. And then we want to go to the mixer. Let's bring up oscillator 2 so we can actually hear it. And we're going to bring this up a fifth, so 7 semitones, because you know I love fifths. Let's get some movement going on that one. So we want to use LFO3. And that's the nice thing about the Hydrasynth is we have so many damn LFOs to use. We have 5 of them, and then we have 5 envelopes, and it's fantastic. And you can attach an LFO to multiple destinations too. So LFO 1 and 2 could technically do both oscillators if we wanted to, but since we have so many, we're going to use oscillator or LFO 3. Whoops. Keep pressing it and not going. So yeah, oscillator 2. We're going to hold down this and we're going to put wave scan to it. We're going to turn it up to around 23 or 22. That's totally fine, right? Actually, we're going to go negative. We're going to go negative 22 because we want the wavetable to go down, and we're going to change the starting position of the wavetable. So we're going to start it at around 5. So here. And we're going to slow down LFO 3. Really cool. And so let's add some mutants. We're going to add some different mutants to this one. We're going to go here and we're going to add one called harmonic. We're going to start it low, around the 30s again, and we're going to attach LFO 4 to that. Go to LFO 4, we're going to slow it way down again. And we're not going to add another mutant to that. We could, but you know what? Actually, let's do it. Let's add another mutant. We're going to add the oscillator sync again to mutant 4 here, which is the second mutant for oscillator 2. And we're going to attach LFO 5 to the depth of that. We're going to turn it up to around 40. And we're going to go back here to mutant 4. We're going to turn the wet dry. We're going to turn the depth up to about there. Now we're going to turn the depth down. That's nice. Let's add a little feedback to it. Now let's go to LFO 5 and turn down the rate. Now we're starting with a very complex initial oscillator sound, and it is pretty cool. Let's start shaping our envelopes. So by default, envelope 2 is our amp envelope, and we're going to add a bunch of release to it. Let's add about 3 seconds. Why not? Let's add a tiny bit of attack so it doesn't get clicky. Maybe a little more. Alright, and we're going to kill the cutoff, so we have almost nothing going through. And now we're going to use envelope 1, which is going to be by default our filter envelope. Make sure we're in filter 1 here. And we're going to increase the envelope. Let's just go to our filters, see what we're doing. So yeah, we want to have the filter envelope right around there. That's nice. And now we want to go to envelope 1. We want to shape that. We want to add a bunch of release. And some attack. So the resonance will be nice with that. And let's add some resonance. We want to actually add quite a bit of resonance. So let's go back to our filters, see what I'm doing. We're adding a bunch of resonance. We're going to add a little bit of drive. So about there, 23 drive is nice. Let's tame the envelope a little bit. Again, we want this to be very complex. I think that's pretty nice. Maybe let's back off the filter envelope a little more so it's less. Oh, it's still going to be harsh, but a little less. Okay, I think that's pretty cool. We're going to do something really fun. We're going to use envelope 3 and 4. Well, we're just going to use envelope 3 right now to control the volume of oscillator 2, because what we want to do is have oscillator 2 fade in. So to do that, we can go here in our mixer section, hold envelope 3, attach it to oscillator 2 in the mixer. And we're going to turn it up all the way to 128. Now we want to go back to the mixer and we want to turn the oscillator 2 all the way down. So now envelope 3 will be controlling the loudness of just oscillator 2's mix. So by default, there's 0 attack, so it's immediately gonna. But see, when we let go, oscillator 2 just drops out. So let's add some release on that, maybe 3 seconds. What did we put for this? About 3 seconds. So yeah, we'll turn it to about 3. That's totally fine. 3 seconds is fine. But what we want to do is we want to see, so on our other attack envelope, we have about 1.5 seconds. We want it to kick in much later than that. So on envelope 3, let's go back here to the attack portion, and we want it to fade in after about maybe 3 seconds, actually. So here, you'll hear the first oscillator, and then about 1.5 seconds after the first oscillator is totally ramped up, you'll hear this, because it's 3 seconds. It's an additional 1.5 seconds from our initial 1.5. So here. Really cool sounding. And we can add a sub oscillator. So let's use oscillator 3, and we're going to go into the mixer, and we're going to attach envelope 4 to oscillator 3. Turn that all the way up. Let's go over to envelope 4, and we're going to have that kick in after about 5 seconds. I'm going to add some release to that. Around the 3 second mark, it doesn't really matter, just as long as it's not abrupt. And let's go to oscillator 3. By default, it's going to be negative 12 semitones, so an octave below 1. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to do negative 12. It should be a nice interval, of course. And we're going to use a triangle wave. So there we go. Oscillator 3 is now kicked in. Just making sure. But yeah, we're going to turn it down. It's subtle when it's a triangle, but it'll add that bottom end we want. All right, let's make this a little more expressive. We're going to go into the mod matrix. We're going to assign poly aftertouch. So all the synths in this lineup have either polyphonic pressure, which would be the desktop model for the pads, or polyphonic aftertouch, and it's really fun to use. So we're going to go poly aftertouch. Whoops. Aha. Back to the mod matrix. Whoops. All right, let's go here. Assign poly aftertouch. So let's go poly aftertouch. Then we want to go down, and then we want to attach the filter 1. We want to attach, whoops, again, drive. It's a little menu divey, but when you get used to it, it is nice, and you have easy, like, shortcuts for everything. And we want to add the drive to around like 35 or so. I have my aftertouch curve to be very light touch, but yeah, you'll hear it. We'll go here. Maybe a little more drive. There we go. Sounding pretty cool. We are going to use a delay on here, so let's go to the delay section. Let's turn up the mix to at least 50, maybe a little more. And then we want to turn the time up to about a second. Fairly high feedback. We're going to change it to the pan. No, we're going to turn it to we're going to turn it to the pan delay. Let's listen to that really quick. And let's just, for the fun of it, listen to the reverb. After my whole little spiel about the whole reverb part, let's see what it actually sounds like. Just in case you want to use the internal reverb, I would recommend you don't. I would recommend the blackhole, or maybe one of the free Valhalla plugins if you're going to use your DAW or something. But yeah, let's turn this up to about 50. And then we're going to turn the time up to about 5 seconds, but yeah. The delay is really helping pad it out, but as you can hear on the tail there, it just sounds harsh and nasty. Not nice at all. So let's turn off the reverb. And let's turn on black hole, and you'll be amazed by this. All right, black hole's on. Sounding pretty cool. Let's choose a different filter. Let's actually use the FAT, the low pass FAT 24, which is a ladder filter with some Q compensation. Yeah, let's listen to that. envelope to it so it's a little brighter. Let's go down an octave and have a little more fun. And obviously we could choose different filters. The MS-20 filter's really nice in here too. Let's try the, what is it, the that one, the one that the Mini Brute and stuff is based on. Yeah, so I kind of just wanted to go over like a lot of modulation capabilities we can use on the Hydrasynth, especially with how fun it is just to modulate the wavetables. The filters actually sound really good on this. I mean, for a digital synth, they don't sound really that close to real analog filters. I mean, they have the spirit of it, especially that the MS-20 filter. It's not exactly there. The state variable filter on filter 2, which is a SEM style filter, is just not that great. So I just don't like it. But yeah, the other filters are pretty good, especially like I said, the MS-20 filter and the ladder filters are just fantastic on this. So yeah, you can use all the envelopes got used. Well, not all the envelopes, but all of our LFOs got used, so that was pretty fun. But you can use the envelopes, for instance, to control your mixer volumes, which is something that I don't see used all that often on this synth in particular. But it's really nice to just add some movement into there and just build up a nice patch that just sounds so cool. Also, likewise, using the poly aftertouch to control the filter drive, because it's going to be per note then, obviously, for the drive, since drive characteristic will be added per note, so that's pretty cool. So like my lower note here, let's actually go up an octave so it's not so bad. But we can have a lot of drive down here and not some up here. Really fun for adding a little bit more variation and making drones more interesting. But yeah, I hope this inspired you to make some more patches on the Hydrasynth if you have one, or if you're looking at getting one soon. The Hydrasynth is like one of the best synths per value kind of propositions you have out there. Used Explorers go for very little money. The desktops go for decent prices on the used market, and even new, you can find them discounted quite often. Even at their normal values, they're just a really good synth. Built exceptionally well, and they sound good as long as you don't use the internal reverb. I was very clear about that in the beginning. Obviously, I know I was very exhaustive, but people always ask me why I don't like the reverb in the Hydrasynth, and I hope that explains it compared to like something that I find very nice, like the blackhole. Yeah, so thanks for watching. If you like this kind of video and you're not subscribed, yeah, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, and hopefully I'll do some more analog synths coming up. All right, bye.